Hello and welcome to Whiskey Resource. I'm Mark and I'm back for another review. I'm not going to give this a review number right now because, to be honest, I've done a few reviews. I'm not sure which one this is going to be when I upload it, so surprise. I will tell you that it is a bourbon review. Jim Beam Devil's Cut. So Jim Beam, established in 1795, so they're 225 years old right now. They've been making bourbon, according to their website, since the time started with bourbons. I'm going to quickly cover what a bourbon is. I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's a bit more in the review that I posted online, and you can certainly do a bit more research if you want to. And in my future videos, I'm sure I will be covering a bit more detail about the different types of bourbon, because it's a minefield. But a bourbon is essentially 51% corn in the mash bill. The remaining 49% can be wheat, it can be rye, it can be barley. It could be pretty much any other grain that's available, but it has to be 51% corn. It has to be distilled at 160 proof, that is 80% alcohol. It then has to be barreled in new charred American oak. Typically it's white oak, but it could be any other American charred oak. So it's barreled at 125 proof, which is 62.5% or less. It can't have any additives, and when it comes to bottling it, it has to be bottled at 2-year-old minimum. But this is a straight bourbon, and that's a little bit more complicated again. So to be called a straight bourbon, it has to be bottled minimum 2-year-old. Anything under 4-year-old, it has to carry an age statement. It has to say that's 2-year-old, 3-year-old, if they want to call it straight bourbon. Anything older than 4-year-old, they don't need to put an age statement on it, and can carry the straight bourbon label. Now, the Jim Beam Devil's Cut doesn't have an age statement on it. The White Label does. It has a 4-year-old age statement on the White Label. Now, a bit disappointing that this doesn't have a age statement on it. I'll come back to that in a moment. So for the purposes of the value score I'm going to give, I'm going to base this on the 4-year-old that the White Label, which is the introductory bourbon in the range, the core range that Jim Beam do. Jim Beam, of course, now are Beam Suntory, after having a deal with the Japanese firm. So what can we say about the Devil's Cut? Well, say it doesn't have an age statement on it. What the website says is that it's a blend of the extra aged bourbon with bourbon that has been extracted from the cask walls. So a lot of their website is going on about how this is very woody. That's the kind of notes that we're going to get from the palate and from the nose is wood. They just go on about it, they talk about the wood. It's such a important thing, the oak. Now, the bourbon casks in America, they have to be new, which means that there's a massive secondary market for all their used casks. They go over the world, and of course the Scottish whisky industry uses a lot of those casks. A lot of bourbon finished whiskies, a lot of aged whiskies in Scotland come in bourbon casks. So again, on the nose, you're looking at oak, sweetness, vanilla maybe, bit of spice. Tasting notes don't really give you much on their website. So let's find out exactly what we're going to get. So here's me Benwick glass, me Glencairn I've been using, and I'm only going to pour, as typically, a small little dram here. As you can see, I've had a fair amount of this bottle, but I have had this bottle a few years. It is 45% ABV. It comes in a 70 cl bottle. You can actually pick up a 50 ml bottle, a 5 cl bottle, if you wish to. There are various places online that will sell that. Can't really find anything else about sizes, but that size there at the 700 ml. Online price, you'd be looking at around about £26.95, I believe is the average price, which is competitive with other special bourbon offerings. So on the nose, I'm starting to get a dry mouth here. Yeah, we're getting oak. It's to be expected. If they're talking about extracting bourbon from the walls of the cask, oak. It actually is very woody. And there is that vanilla, a little bit of spice. It is sweet. The sweetness is jumping out at you. And it has that typical bourbon smell to it, but it does smell a bit more intense. It starts off sweet and spicy, and that oak starts to build and build and build and build and build to the point where it's almost as if you're sucking on an oak lollipop stick, and you're just sucking on it, and you're just getting like all of the tannins is coming off the lollipop stick as you're sucking on it. You've got no more ice cream, no more chocolate, no more flavourings. You're just sucking on wood. It's nice. It's very enjoyable. It's a pleasurable drink. The 45% ABV, it doesn't come across too hot. The spiciness that you're getting from it, I don't think it's coming from the spirit. I think it's coming from the oak. They have been saying you get a bit of a smoky kick to it. I wouldn't say I'm getting any kind of smoke. I'm going to put a little bit of water in there, given it is slightly hot. It doesn't need much because I haven't poured a particularly big dram here. So I'm just going to pour literally just a drop of water in there. It's coming across sweeter. I think some of those oils have maybe been released. I think this whiskey would do well with sitting and just oxidising a bit, airing, just leaving. I would say probably a good 10-minute wait to leave that to open up. I think it would do wonders. That is releasing more flavours. It's spicy. I'm starting to get a little bit of cinnamon there. Definitely more vanilla. There's some form of a fruit coming through. I want to say it's a citrus fruit, not an orange or a lemon or a lime. That leaves grapefruit really, but I wouldn't say it's grapefruit. It is like a citrusy element, so I'll say citric acid. Yeah, it's not a bad little whiskey. So for our value score, we gave it, I just have to remind myself here, an 87 for value score. It did lose a little bit because they don't state anything about the chill filtration, although we believe it is chill filtered from what I've done on my research. There's no colouring in there because it's not allowed by American law, and it's a good ABV at 45, so it's doing really well there. So it's a good score of 87. In terms of overall for taste, I'm probably going to score it an 85. It's a nice, enjoyable whiskey. I wouldn't say that I'd want to drink it all the time. It's a bit too in your face. I think the oak makes it a bit too intense, as they'd say. So it's for those people who like that kind of kick of oak. There are other bourbons available should you want something that's less in your face, and we will be reviewing more bourbons over the coming reviews. But that's all for now. There are more reviews that I've done that are going to get published. As I say, this one, I don't know what number we're going to give this one at this point, because there's some more reviews that I'm looking forward to publishing. Anyway, laters.